with Daniel Jun, a platform engineer at Sylvera. Sylvera is a company that provides carbon database and is based in the UK. Daniel builds geospatial data platforms that support the work of Sylvera. His talk highlights some of the key ways that Fuse can be used to solve data access, analysis, and presentation issues. So let's turn it over to Daniel.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Tyler, for the introduction, and thanks, everyone, for the cool demos. So I don't have a cool demo, but what I have is a quick talk, and the talk is really aimed at myself a couple of months ago when I was sort of discovering Fused and playing around with it, and it was cool. There were cool visualizations. It was clearly powerful and fast. And I kind of understood what it does. But at the same time, if someone asked me at the time what actually is Fused, I would still find it quite hard to answer because of how versatile it is and how many things it can do. And so I came up with these 6 concrete ways to characterize Fused based on existing technologies. So the first one is the comparison to GitHub. I think that's the first thing that you see in Fuse. You open the workbench and you just see all of these cool UDFs that you can click on and run. And I have a concrete example from my life where maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago or something like that, I created this relative elevation model notebook. And at the time, I wanted to share with the world. And so obviously, the place to go was GitHub. Today, I would definitely use Fuse for that. It's the perfect place for that. Also because people can just click on it and then run the thing. With GitHub, people have to clone it and set up environment and so on. So with Fuse, you not only get to share the code and the visualization, but you also get to get people to even run it at the same time. The second comparison that was of particular interest to me is with Dask. Dask is a distributed computing library in Python, and it's something that I love and use daily. And Fuse and Dask have similar goals in some way. And with both of them, you essentially write your function, and then you let either Fuse or Dask distribute the function over all of data, potentially globally. The thing that Fuse has on top there, I think, is with Dask, especially if you want to go really global, you have to provision nodes, you have to start up the cluster. And with Fuse, that's something that you really don't worry about. You just write the function, and Fuse kind of magically does the distribution over the whole globe for you. So I think in some cases, especially where Fuse can be kind of a very simple way to get into this, to, okay, I just have my function, I need to run it under a lot of data. And I think we've seen in the demos today that that's what Fuse excels at. The third one is comparison to Snowpark. Snowpark is a computational layer on top of, sorry, my slides uncovering doesn't work. So I'm kind of, well, yeah, we can't see the beautiful doc visualization, but anyway. So yeah, so Snowpark is a computational layer on top of Snowflake, which is a popular data warehouse. And Fuse gives you that ability to get your data, get some Python libraries, and process it, and then spit it out somewhere. But it does so much more than just Snowflake. There's all these integrations. And I have that one example there where I could just take a UDF that creates 6 months worth of NDVI composite from Landsat data, and it creates it on the fly as you go around the map. And I could just put that in Ocean, and which is just basically a document that you can share with people, which I find really cool. I think it's cool to live in a world where I can just do that. I can just pass it in Ocean, and people can kind of slip around and see that happening at an actual real time. So this one is actually referring, I think, to the use case we had earlier from Pajama. And the name Mapbox and steroids is a bit tongue-in-cheek because, I mean, Mapbox is a whole platform, and Fuse is not really on a mission to replace it. But when I think of Mapbox, I think of web mapping. And the on steroids part is, with Mapbox, typically what I would do is I would prepare my data and then get them somewhere and then show them. Whereas the on steroids part is with Fused, I can actually create the data on the fly. And again, we've seen a lot of that today. And I think an especially important part is also that Fuse has this automatic caching layer that, again, we've seen today. And so the next user then comes along, the data doesn't have to be processed. It's already there. And so it's already cached from the previous user. So 2 more. This is one of the newest features. Again, we've seen it. Fuse now provides the possibility to create Streamlit applications that run directly in your browser. And the way I think about that, previously Fuse had those UDFs, it had the parallel processing, it had the web mapping, but with Streamlit, you can really infuse interactivity with your map. So you now actually can create a whole application around it. And I mean, I don't need to say it because we've seen really great examples of exactly that in the demos before. And so the final one, I've called Geospatial-first IDE, but I think it's actually kind of a bigger thing. So Fuse does have this really nice Workbench IDE in the web, and it's really nice to use. But I think it can do actually something bigger. So today there's these two worlds. There is the software engineer who uses test-driven development and creates good production code, and at some point runs it on the data and maybe sees where it fails and then iterates. In the other world, we have the data scientist who probably works in something like Jupyter Notebooks and really develops against the data, writes the function, maybe runs it on a subset of data, sees what it does against the outliers and so on. And I think Fuse can bring those two worlds together. There is the IDE, but I think it actually doesn't matter in that sense. You could write your code in VS Code, but the really important thing about Fuse is that as soon as you wrap it in a UDF, you can then turn on QGIS and start looking at your results anywhere on the globe in there. And you can do that whether that's just a function you've just written and you're developing, or you can also do that if it's a function deployed somewhere in production and you may be trying to see what's going wrong with it. And so I think Fuse really has the potential there to become this tool where I can write production-grade tools in a good environment, but at the same time be always able to look at the results, which especially with, I think, geospatial data is really, really important. And cool, so that's that. So that's the 6 use cases that I came up with. There are more. We've seen some today, and I think there's definitely use cases that the creators of Fuse haven't even thought of yet. And yeah, I'm excited to see where Fuse goes and what people build.
Well, thanks, Daniel. Those were kind of great features and great comparisons to other products out there.